In the shadow war of oil and geopolitics, something strange is happening. Official reports claim that India and China are reducing their purchase of Russian oil. Western media says sanctions are biting hard. The United States boasts that its economic pressure is finally cornering Moscow. But here's the twist. Russian oil exports are actually soaring. The West says trade is slowing down. The data says otherwise. The tankers haven't stopped sailing, they've just gone dark. This is the story of how BRICS quietly built a secret oil lifeline, turning US sanctions into a global illusion. Welcome back to TFI Global. Let's start with what the headlines say. According to Western media, the sanctions are working. The US Treasury has slapped new restrictions on Russian oil giants like Rosneft and Lukoil. Washington is threatening tremendous penalties for anyone who violates the $60 per barrel price cap. President Trump, in his trademark style, vows to end Russian oil sales to Asia, accusing China and India of bankrolling Putin's war. So, on paper, it looks like India and China are backing off. Reports from Reuters and CNN highlight a visible drop in declared shipments, suggesting compliance. But there's a problem. At the same time, these so-called reductions are being celebrated. Russia's total oil exports are rising, and a new mysterious category appears in trade data, unknown Asia. According to Bloomberg, Russian crude shipments have hit nearly 3.74 million barrels per day, the highest since mid-2023. That's not decline, that's a resurgence. In September 2025 alone, Moscow shipped over 25 million tons of crude by sea. Revenues climbed, not fell. So where is all this oil going? The numbers reveal a hidden identity. Asia now absorbs over 80% of Russia's crude exports. China takes roughly 47%, that is nearly 2 million barrels per day. India follows close behind with 38%, about 1.6 million barrels per day. Even as both countries officially scale down purchases, the volume entering Asian ports remains the same, only now it's disguised. Labeled as unknown, rerouted through middlemen and delivered under the radar. Welcome to the world of the dark fleet, oil tankers that travel without transponders, their tracking systems switched off. Here's how it works. Russian crude leaves ports like Novorossiysk or Primorsk. Somewhere in the Indian Ocean or near Malaysia, the oil is transferred ship to ship, often under different flags. The new tanker then sails to destinations listed as undisclosed or unknown. Once it lands in ports like Gujarat or Fujian, boom, the data updates. Indian refinery, Chinese terminal, officially no direct purchase. Practically, business as usual. In August 2025 alone, over half of all Russian shipments rode on non-G7 tankers. Nearly 1.5 million barrels per day were labeled unknown destination, a record high. So while Western analysts celebrate fewer barrels to India and China, the same amount quietly slips through the cracks. Now, let's talk about the silent players behind this. BRICS. Once seen as a loose economic forum, BRICS has evolved into a strategic alliance that's quietly defying Western financial control. Russia supplies the oil, India refines it and resells it to Europe. China stockpiles it to feed its industrial engine. Payments? No US dollars needed. Ruble-rupee trade, gold-backed systems and even cryptocurrencies like Tether are used to bypass SWIFT. It's not an official oil pact, but the coordination speaks volumes. As one analyst put it, sanctions made BRICS stronger, not weaker. While the West lectures about price caps, BRICS is writing its own energy rules, de-dollarizing trade, securing cheap supply and building a multipolar economic shield. India's role here is fascinating. Publicly, it insists on strategic autonomy. Privately, it's thriving. By importing discounted Russian crude, often $5 to $6 cheaper than Brent, India saves billions. It refines that oil into petrol, diesel and jet fuel, then sells it back to Europe at market price. Yes, Europe, the same region enforcing sanctions, ends up burning Indian processed Russian fuel. China, meanwhile, is taking a longer view. It's filling its massive strategic reserves, building pipeline deals, and paying with yuan to reduce dependence on the dollar. Together, these two giants, India and China, have turned sanctions into a geopolitical chessboard. The West plays with rules, BRICS rewrites them. And here's the irony. The West thinks it has capped Russian oil, but in reality, Russia has capped Western visibility. Every new US or European Union sanction package drives more trades into the shadows. The tracking gets murkier, not smaller. Europe's own consumers are paying the price, with refined imports now $10 to $15 more per barrel. Meanwhile, Russia's revenues remain stable and BRICS members enjoy cheap energy security. The sanctions that were meant to isolate Moscow have instead isolated Western markets from cheap oil. The result? A world where transparency dies and the tankers just keep sailing east. So, what's really happening? Not a decline, a redesign. Not transparency but stealth. Not isolation but integration through BRICS. China and India aren't reducing Russian oil, they're rerouting it. The so-called unknown Asia in the data is no mystery. It's BRICS' invisible handshake. As an observer joked, sanctions on Russia hurt the West more than Russia. And as the dark fleets disappear beyond satellite range, one truth emerges. The era of Western control over global energy is ending. This isn't just about oil, it's about power. Who wields it, who hides it, and who rewrites the rules. This is the illusion of sanctions, where BRICS fuels the machine and Washington watches the shadows. If you found this analysis useful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into global geopolitics. This is The Global Lens, bringing you the stories behind the smoke and the mirrors. Thanks for watching.